What's happening these days in the Catholic Church isn't a simple controversy between bishops. It's a clash that directly affects the Church's present and could have far more profound consequences than many believers imagine. Bishop Athanasius Schneider has in fact declared that a possible excommunication against the priestly fraternity of St. Pius VI for new episcopal consecrations might not be valid according to canon law. A phrase that, uttered by a Catholic bishop, immediately sparked debate in the ecclesiastical world. Schneider is not a peripheral figure. He is the auxiliary bishop of Astana, Kazakhstan, and was previously the Holy See's apostolic visitor to the Society of St. Pius VI. He therefore knows the situation very well. His statements were made during a private meeting of the Confraternity of Our Lady of Fatima, and later made public with his consent. And it was on that occasion that the bishop uttered words that reverberated throughout the Catholic world. Schneider stated, "I think that if the excommunication were applied, it would be somehow invalid because there is no intention to commit a schismatic act on the part of the Society of St. Pius VI, and you cannot punish someone when they have no intention of doing so according to canon law." The heart of his argument is very clear. According to Schneider, the decisive factor in judging the canonical status of any episcopal consecrations is not only the external act, but the intention of the person performing it. In canon law, in fact, the intention to separate from the Church is an essential element for configuring a schism. And it is precisely on this point that the bishop insists. Schneider affirms that the fraternity's leadership has no intention of separating from Rome. He says it without hesitation. There is no intention on the part of the leadership of the Society of St. Pius VI to separate itself from Rome. But it is when he moves on to analyze the internal situation of the Church that his words become even more weighty. The bishop declared, "It is no secret that there are very influential and high-ranking clergymen today who simply hate everything that is authentic Catholic tradition in doctrine and liturgy." And he adds another point that has sparked much discussion. According to him, there are ecclesiastical circles that would be happy if the Society of St. Pius VI could simply be excommunicated. The reason, according to the bishop, is very simple. The presence of the fraternity represents a concrete testimony to the liturgical and doctrinal tradition of the Church. And for this very reason, it would constitute a problem for those who would like a different direction for the contemporary Church. Schneider then compares two attitudes which, according to him, reveal an increasingly evident contradiction. On the one hand, the utmost severity is being called for against the Society of St. Pius VI. On the other, great tolerance is being shown toward ambiguous doctrinal situations. The bishop explicitly cites the so-called German synodal path, one of the most controversial ecclesial processes of recent years. According to Schneider, while excommunications against the society are being discussed, at the same time, doctrines and practices that he defines as openly ambiguous or even heretical are being tolerated. But perhaps the most powerful part of his analysis concerns the reason why, according to him, a real integration of the fraternity into the life of the Church would be considered unacceptable by some ecclesiastical circles. Schneider argues that for certain cardinals and bishops who are influential today, such an integration would be unbearable because it would unmask something much bigger. The bishop speaks openly of clergymen who, in his opinion, are cowardly collaborators with the agenda of the world's ideological elites. According to Schneider, a genuine agreement with the Society of St. Pius VI could spark a sort of reawakening of Catholic tradition in the life of the Church. And for this very reason, some ecclesiastical circles would seek to prevent it. Words that immediately provoked reactions. And indeed, the response was not long in coming. Monsignor Marian Eleganti, Auxiliary Bishop Emeritus of Chur, Switzerland, intervened publicly, deciding to openly challenge Schneider's argument. Eleganti published a highly critical response in which he rejected the idea that the absence of schismatic intention could change the nature of the act. According to the Swiss bishop, the problem is not what the society says it wants to do, but what would actually happen. Eleganti states, declaring a questionable intention doesn't help. It's a way of saying they don't intend schism in order to deceive people about the objectively schismatic nature and the effects of such an act of disobedience. According to the prelate, consecrating bishops without a pontifical mandate remains an act of grave disobedience, regardless of declared intentions. The second point concerns the fact that these bishops would operate outside of full communion with the Pope and the Episcopal College. The third point concerns the presence of hundreds of priests who, according to Eleganti, are not incarnated in the dioceses recognized by the ordinary structure of the Church. And finally, the bishop speaks of a situation he defines as almost paradoxical, a sort of jurisdictional nirvana in which ecclesiastical authority would be exercised autonomously without a fully recognized canonical mission. In essence, according to Eleganti, the fraternity would exist in a parallel structure that considers itself fully Catholic, even though it is not integrated into the juridical structure of the Church. The clash between the two bishops reveals how explosive the issue has become. It's no longer just about the Society of St. Pius VI. The real issue concerns the relationship between tradition, authority, and Catholic identity in the contemporary world. And just as this confrontation intensifies, a call for unity has also arrived from another well-known figure in the tradition-bound Catholic world, Archbishop Carlo Maria Vigano. Vigano recently spoke words that many interpreted as a warning directed specifically at traditional Catholics. The Archbishop said, "The fragmentation of Catholics faithful to tradition weakens every form of resistance." And he added that it would be appropriate to put aside internal divisions for the very sake of the Church's survival in the face of possible future persecution. These words come at a particularly delicate time, because what today appears to be a clash over a canonical issue could actually be the sign of something deeper, a fracture that concerns the very way the Church interprets its own tradition, its mission, and its future. And this is precisely why many observers are closely watching this affair. Because the question emerging from this crisis does not only concern the Society of St. Pius VI. The question is much bigger, and it concerns the very destiny of the Church in our time. What do you think? If you liked the video, comment Amen. God bless you.